Brembo presents
Red Bull does a double in Japan, Ferrari third and fourth place, dissolving any doubts about competitiveness. I unfortunately still with my sunglasses for my problems and eyes, but the button we unfasten and start with our new installment. Ferrari in the set that in fact in Japan on an extremely fast track with curves and wide radius where the single-seater must be well supported, proved to all intents and purposes to be the second force in the World Championship. A single-seater that at this point gives us a different reading of what was the Japan race and especially the China outlook and then later the European season. At this point we have a Ferrari that even on the fast track is proving to be competitive. So if in the first races we saw traction out of the slow corners, a slippery asphalt that in fact is digested very well by the SF24 and the weight setback, the Ferrari also on the fast corners shows that it has a good load balance between the two axles. And above all, it also shows that it has a good distribution of the weights and dynamic masses. So much so that the second very important aspect that we want to evaluate is just the fact that even the tire deterioration has been under control. Even the team has been able to do two diversified strategies. And this means that there is room to be able to move in the race on an aggressive circuit with very challenging grain size asphalt. And this is really a good sign. So we already anticipated it about a month ago. Ferrari with the SF24 has even gone beyond the expectations of technical improvement, problem deterioration of the old SF24. And so this gives us the position of an SF24 that from now on can really aim with the developments to get closer to Red Bull, because at this point it is really the updates and the evolution of the single-seater that will hold the pace, and especially the pace of Red Bull and Ferrari that are now the two reference teams of the Formula One New Year season.
The degradation was under control and we were close to setting a fast lap. However, we need to improve qualifying. We are in almost the opposite situation from last year.
As per our previous analyses, the SF24 has managed to go beyond the goal of improving tire deterioration in the race, making it extremely low today. Ferrari in race trim reduces tire wear through more elastic suspension settings that compensate for roll and pitch without transferring a spike in energy to the tires. Optimal footprint development is the result of a better balance between load transfer and downforce forces, which result in greater grip and reduced stress on the compounds. Carcasses with elastic setups are affected by lower transverse stresses and reduced drift angles. By better controlling structure deformation, grip develops over a larger surface area, generating progressive tread heating that stays within the thermal window. With a flat and aerodynamically stable stance, the rider can push under braking while bringing more speed into corner entry. The rear suspension transfers a share of thrust to the inside wheel, improving grip. The contractive scheme breaks down the forces and through the anti-roll bars balances the load at the rear, optimizing the grip of the rear axle, which, under acceleration, bears higher values of traction. For technicians, drivers and engineers, Suzuka was a test bed to see on the ground how competitive in the fast the SF24 was. The leap in quality was there compared to last season, but for Vasseur the good car base is not enough and will have to be improved by the upgrades already planned.
We are focused on taking advantage of the package we have. As of today, we are working on setup and tire management, but over the course of the season, updates will come.
The SF24 is designed to have continuous areas of development in the aerodynamics. The nose and front pushrod pattern have been optimized for ground effect, but the intake boxes already include initial development to increase airflow and energy generated at the height of the venturi channels to improve ground effect. The vortices at the car side have been energized to better shield the entire length of the car bottom and reduce infiltration. The rear end and diffuser will be redesigned, retaining the original idea but with narrower shapes that improve the flow of flows out of the diffuser. This generates more intake of flows over the bellies. In fact, the aerodynamic development includes better interaction between the bottom and top of the single-seater to maximize load and efficiency so that the conformation of the SF24 can be shaped more and more specifically depending on the different needs of the circuits.
Red Bull dominates all effects in Japan, all the front row in qualifying, and then first and second place managing very well. The positions of Verstappen and Perez, without even having to go forcing, of course we are in the Red Bull track like Silverstone, Barcelona. Suzuki is also one of those circuits where the wide radius curves reward aerodynamic efficiency, the ability to distribute the load on the two axles, and especially a chassis of the single-seater perfect in the distribution of grip on the four positions, on the four tires. But above all, the lateral load transfers due to important roll effects in wide radius curves. In all this, however, we have to make an assessment. We have a Red Bull that has given us Taconetto compared to the first three races, then a performance that sees it excel in qualifying on Saturday, excel in the race with a first and second place run by a large margin. Contributed in all this not only the aerodynamics and chassis of the RBX, but the technical development that came ahead of schedule. At the fourth race in Japan, the pace was forced and Red Bull decided to bring the first aerodynamic development, which was very important. We can see it now in our trotty service, but first a reflection on this aerodynamic development should be made. Red Bull has managed this year to bring forward the Evolution packages on its single-seater precisely because this car, which is highly innovative, was designed well in advance of its competitors. When last season the other single-seaters were still searching for aerodynamic balances, developments on their cars, Red Bull had already won the championship, had already created the certainty of the drivers' and constructors' results, and had already anticipated all the single-seater design work, and in parallel, the work on evolution, development, and updates. This goes to explain why already at the fourth race in Japan. The RBXX had at its disposal the first real evolution package, which is not related to the type of track, but is an evolution package that, as we will see in our technical report, is related to aerodynamics to make the cooling system more efficient and especially to improve the dynamics between the front of the single-seater, the wing, and the diffuser.
Our upgrades worked very well, and we immediately saw the improvement that the new components gave in terms of performance.
It is Red Bull that inaugurates the development season, bringing to the fourth race a first improvement package in the efficiency of the cooling system. The first evolution package of the RBXX affects aerodynamics. The design of the bellies, including lower shear, accelerates the flows by activating a very powerful depression that empties the front part of the caissons. Conversely, the upper area works in high pressure, and the intake housing under the ALO, despite its small size, ensures elevated airflow that boosts cooling. Heat evacuated to the hood side represents a disturbing element for the wing. By closing the intakes, the disposal of engine temperatures is shifted to the upper area. The shaping of the hood concentrates rarefied hot flows in the central portion of the wing, limiting the aerodynamic gap. This development revolves around the innovative split, upwind radiator housing that cooperates in lowering the belly profile. New is the fin supporting the rear view mirrors, which acts as a flow corrector to better direct airflow to sensitive areas of the car body. The Red Bull 1.2 is, in part, the result of the anticipated Suzuka aerodynamic development, but also of the design characteristics of the RBXX, which, on fast corners, establishes perfect rear-end support. At high speeds, the RBXX takes advantage of the high aerodynamic load, avoiding packing the rear suspension, which ensures the correct ground clearance, springiness, and cornering setup that distributes as best it can the vertical thrust to the drive wheels. The Exoto damper also reaches to the rear axle and integrates with the third oil gas element. Above the gearbox, the anti-roll bars are horizontal and, via connecting rods, are connected to the rotating shock absorber rockers. Vertical knives provide greater elasticity, aiding the roll of the single-seater. Rotating the bars increases stiffness and reduces body and vehicle lean when cornering, but a range of intermediate adjustments can be made, fine-tuning the setup. The real innovation is in the extended torsion bar system at the bottom. In a straight line, high aerodynamic pressure imparts torsion to the bars, but when DRS is open, the single-seater rises, reducing ground effect and drag. The integration of the fifth suspension locking element reduces sinking while maintaining stable ground clearance. The innovative rear suspension scheme allows Red Bull to control porpoising, maintain low ground clearance and a progressive trim angle that reflects on aerodynamics by enhancing the effectiveness of ground effect.
Until qualifying, I was not completely satisfied with the behavior. Then we made changes to the setup that helped us improve in the race and keep the situation under control.